Hello, we're here with Michael Poradek, the director of St. Joseph's National Shrine. John and I are taking a tour, and we thought this would be a wonderful opportunity to learn a little bit more about not only the shrine, but the church's history and how we can participate alongside everyone. So, Michael, if you want to take a...
Sure, great to be with you all. The shrine here was started by a small immigrant parish in the 1870s, French immigrants that were from Canada. And they had, at that time, just announced that St. Joseph was the universal patron of the church. And so they had dedicated their parish to St. Joseph. So they built a small wood frame church on this current site, started a parish for St. Joseph. In 1888, they received a new pastor by the name of Father Joseph Duran. Father Joseph was a missionary of the Sacred Heart from Chicago, and he came up and began really fostering some strong devotions to St. Joseph. So he started a weekly Wednesday novena to St. Joseph in honor of St. Joseph on that day that we typically hold to have devotions for Joseph. And that has continued since 1888 to today. So we continue that tradition. And also a solemn novena to St. Joseph. And so that occurs in the 9 days leading up to the feast day of St. Joseph on March 19th. And so that tradition also continues today. So this year in 2022, we're celebrating the 135th anniversary of that tradition. And so he began the tradition, unfortunately, a year later after he had started so many wonderful traditions and followings for St. Joseph and had gotten people really engaged in that devotion. A fire struck the wood frame church and it burnt to the ground. At that time, they decided to rebuild the church in honor of St. Joseph. They erected a statue of St. Joseph where they were able to really have their devotions and focus their attention in prayer. They quickly built the current church we're in, which is now a brick structure, and it was dedicated shortly thereafter. At that time, they spared no expense with the church, so they had frescoed all of the walls. They had several paintings of the life of St. Joseph. They included the beautiful windows over the years. On this side of the wall, we see saints that have had a connection or a devotion to St. Joseph in our tradition. St. Francis Xavier, St. Cecilia, St. Patrick, St. Clare. And then on the other side of the church currently, as they're laid out, different titles and imagery that's traditionally associated with St. Joseph. So we see, for example, St. Joseph, universal patron of the church, and we see Joseph the carpenter in different representations that were donated. The church was also had another ceiling before the ceiling we currently see, so it had a special bend and bow to the ceiling. It was used by an inverted ship's hull from one of our local shipbuilders. And that just gave it a little bit extra. It was a little bit more grandiose. It had the murals added to it, a little bit more artistic. And so the church quickly continued in their devotions. They began to gain popularity. So as many of the early parishes started, they decided to reach out to a broader audience and start a newsletter, we might call it, called the Annals of St. Joseph. And Father Duran began to include prayers, different articles of interest on St. Joseph, and published that monthly. And that had a readership all across the country, really gained popularity for the shrine and for the association, which later became an arch confraternity. We don't have that tradition anymore here at the shrine, but we continue to send out newsletters and communications to people from all across the country and around the world who are interested in the shrine's ministry and the devotion to St. Joseph. So we continue that tradition today as well. Through that newsletter, they decided to invest and crown the statue of St. Joseph. So they put an all call out in 1891 for people to donate rings and jewelry and other items to be able to be fashioned into these crowns. The crowns came back. They did not fit the smaller statue. They invested in a larger statue. So the current statue, which we have from 1892, was then set to be crowned. Father Joseph asked for the help of over 20 different bishops from around the area, asking for them to sign on to say we would like the statue to be crowned. And they sent that to Rome. The Pope granted the request, so Pope Leo XIII issued the decree of papal coronation to allow for the statue to be crowned. And so the bishop at the time came here and crowned the statue in the Pope's name. We are the only statue in the United States that's crowned by papal decree of St. Joseph. one of only 17 known in the world to be crowned by papal decree. So it has a unique connection to the universal church at large. And the crowns simply show a special devotion from that community, and the community continues today to foster that devotion and prayer life to St. Joseph. So the crown statue was crowned. It was kind of the focal point of the church itself. The Norbertines came in to the picture. So Father Duran left the shrine shortly thereafter the statue was crowned. Went back to Chicago, died unfortunately shortly thereafter. The diocese took the directorship on of the shrine and the parish. And shortly thereafter, the bishop was looking for another religious order in the area to really work with the shrine and to continue to support the shrine. At that time, there were several thousand of people who were interested in the shrine and were participating in the newsletter every month, and so they needed a little bit more attention than the missionary diocese at the time could provide to the site. At that time, there were 3 Dutch immigrant priests that were Norbertines, Premonstratensian priests, up in the Door Peninsula of Wisconsin, going out into Lake Michigan. They were ministering to the populations there, and they were looking for a place to all connect and settle down a little bit and also begin a teaching ministry. And so at that time, they were being led by a priest named Father Bernard Pennings. And Father Pennings had a great devotion to St. Joseph, coincidentally, and just finished a 30-day novena to St. Joseph when he saw the request from the bishop for a religious order to take on the directorship of the shrine and also of the pastorship of the parish. So after communicating back and forth with their mother Abbey in Bern, Holland, the Norbertines were granted the request to take on the directorship and the pastorship of the parish church and of the shrine. And so they moved into the church in 1898. Shortly thereafter, they began a teaching ministry, which is now St. Norbert College, here that surrounds the site of the shrine. And they continued that ministry. They continued to grow the shrine, grow to people who were following and fostering the devotion to St. Joseph through the ministry of the shrine. And they continued on for many years after that. Eventually, the Norbertines outgrew this current space here at the shrine, and they needed to find a bigger place. And so about 3 miles down the road, they invested in a area and a new abbey for the growing population. And they decided after they built the new abbey to move the shrine to the abbey location. And so the shrine itself and the ministry moved to the new abbey down the road, and then this became simply the college chapel for the college students and for the college community. In 2015, it was determined that they would return the shrine back to the original location along with the statue, and the shrine moved back to its current home where we are now. Obviously, a few renovations had gone on. In the meantime, the church had been renovated twice, once in the early 1960s, again in 1999, which is the current renovation that you see with a lot of the original brickwork, woodwork, etc. And so the church has continued to evolve over the years, and the shrine has too, because it was kind of moving around a little bit. Devotion decreased slightly. Notoriety of the shrine decreased a little bit, the visibility, but we continued now in the years after, especially following the year of St. Joseph, to increase visitors to the shrine and to be able to be knowing about the shrine. Our chaplain, Father Michael Brennan, has done a lot of work with being able to foster a greater increased attention to the shrine as well. So we continue to this day. Pilgrims come from all across the country, not just in our local area, to offer prayers for St. Joseph, to light candles, which has been a long-standing tradition here at the shrine as well. And we continue to spread the good news about St. Joseph and, of course, his foster child, our Lord Jesus Christ, through the ministry of the shrine. So the statue is the 1892 statue of St. Joseph, currently in this other space here at the National Shrine for people to be able to come and pray. We're able to stay open because of the extended campus hours, so we're open from 6 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night every day of the year. So people are able to come at all hours of the day to pray, to light candles, to offer prayers and devotions. And just seeking a quiet place of prayer. Many students during the school year will come as well for a nice quiet place to pray. So the statue was recently renovated, or restored I should say, in 2020 as part of the year of St. Joseph. And so the color scheme now is pretty close to the original color scheme of what would have been when the statue was first built and dedicated. And you'll see two crowns that we talked about before on the heads. So on the Christ child, we see the imperial crown, which is a closed crown on top, which is a little bit higher ranking than Joseph's crown, which is referred to as a mural crown. And around the brim of Joseph's crown are small symbols of Joseph, so the S and the J, for example, the hammer, different symbols that we typically associate with Joseph that were placed in there. They don't have the same types of crowns because they wanted to recognize the ranking, of course, of Jesus and Joseph, so they had two different types of crowns made at the time. And it's again kind of represents that devotion of the local community at the time for Joseph and their great love for St. Joseph and the Christ child, and offering what they had to be able to make the crowns as we see them today.
So, Michael, with the history of the statue and the crowning, I know that there's only 17 in the world of St. Joseph's that are crowned. How many are in, North America?
So we're the only one in the United States of America with a crowned Josephian statue, they call it, of St. Joseph. It's crowned by a papal decree. The closest one is in Canada at the Oratory of St. Joseph in Quebec. And so that is the only one in Canada as well. So they're few and far between, but that again shows that unique connection that we have to the much wider church, especially right here. We're one of the smallest national shrines, I would think, in the whole country, whether for Joseph across the world or anywhere really. But that's just because we've been always kept that small beginnings. It wasn't really built to be a national shrine when it was started. It was a parish church, and so it always has had that kind of concept to it of being a little bit smaller. We'll see some national shrines that are very active and there's lots going on in multiple buildings, and that's wonderful and good. But I think this shrine, especially with visitors that come, will often say that they're struck by how quiet it is and how humble. And of course, Joseph is known as being a quiet and humble saint. And so it's a nice connection here. People are often caught by that and really appreciate that they can go to multiple different shrines with saints and pray. And this is a unique experience compared to other shrines as well.
And what would be the closest other shrines?
The closest next shrine is the National Shrine of Our Lady of Good Health in Champaign, Wisconsin. So that's about 21 miles away. It was just named a national shrine several years ago with a Marian apparition site. The only documented, I would say, a Marian apparition site in the country. So that's a unique connection as well, to have Joseph and Mary within close proximity of one another. There's actually a walking pilgrimage that's hosted by another group that starts here at the National Shrine of St. Joseph and goes to the National Shrine of Our Lady of Good Health. It's called Walk to Mary, and there's several thousand people that come for that walk and pick up along the way on the route, and it's a walking pilgrimage, so 21 miles, so it's a long day for people that do the whole route, but that's a great tradition as well. It started in May of every year.
It's a wonderful tradition.
Yeah.
And so, Michael, for the last couple of years, the Italian Community Center and our Italian community has had to kind of put the St. Joseph celebration, we haven't been able to participate.
Sure.
So we are trying to bring this all back as much as we can. And we're just interested, we have a huge St. Joseph's Table celebration. How do you at the National Shrine celebrate?
So we have our solemn novena, that we call it. So we have the weekly novena on Wednesdays, then we have the solemn novena leading up to March 19th. And so that's the 9 days prior to the feast day on the 19th, so from the 10th until the 18th. And then on the 19th is the feast day. So every day there will be a Mass in the evening, so a typical Mass in honor of St. Joseph, followed by the novena prayers, which is living to St. Joseph and prayers for St. Joseph. And then on the actual feast day on the 19th, we'll have the final concluding Mass to celebrate the solemnity. And so that'll be the same thing. There'll be Mass in the morning instead, and then followed by the prayers as well. We have not had the tradition of the St. Joseph's table, but by popular demand in the area, we're going to actually start it this year. So we're going to try to do a smaller starting, not as big, I'm sure, as you have established with the community, but certainly we'll be adding that tradition as well for people.
And who is actually going to be organizing that? Are you having people make traditional dishes? One of the things that in the Italian community we do is we have, it's meatless, so we have an anchovy-based pasta sauce.
Mm-hmm. So we don't have those traditions yet, but I'm certainly interested to see where it will go. We've never had we've had the French traditions, of course, that have been here with the shrine, but we haven't had some of the other cultural traditions that we continue to see coming to the shrine. So we're going to be starting that this year, and we'll see how that goes. But
so Michael, we were wondering, when visitors come, what is their experience? Maybe you could start here and just kind of take us around that.
Well, people who are able to come in person will often write their intentions to leave behind at the shrine. So this is our tool chest, representing Joseph being the carpenter. So we have the tool chest, and people will leave their prayer requests here. We remember all the prayer requests collectively on the Wednesday novena, and then on the Sunday masses as well here at the church. And so all those prayers are collected. Some people, unfortunately, cannot come to the shrine in person, so we receive the online prayer requests, and we bring them here to the tool chest, and we have them printed off and placed in the tool chest as well. So that's a beautiful tradition that we've had. Also for candles, people will sometimes light a candle for their intention. That's a long-standing tradition. And then people who also cannot be here in person can send in candle requests as well for their intentions. So there's that experience. Like I said, it's a smaller national shrine, so it's going to be a smaller, quieter experience for people who come in person. Some people will just come for a short amount of time and be visiting some of the other sites in the area as well. Some people like to just spend a day here, a half a day here, and just spend some time in prayer and reflecting. We see, like I said, some college students during this academic year, but we see people from all over the country will come and visit. During COVID, it's been more difficult, of course, and so we've seen fewer visitors. Now it seems like we'll be able to see more in the future as COVID becomes less of a concern for traveling and visiting. And so during the novena, again, we'll have all of our masses live streamed from March 10th until March 19th, so those will be accessible for people to watch if they'd like to join us in prayer, at least virtually, on watching those masses as well. You'd be welcome to come, though. They'll all be in person as well, those masses during the novena. And of course, the weekly novena on Wednesdays, people are also welcome to come and join in on as well.
And that's at noon on Wednesdays.
And noon on Wednesdays, yep. And the Mass, and then followed by the novena prayers.
So Michael, thank you so much for all of your time and information today. It has been amazing to hear about something that we didn't even know was here before. And it is such a well-guarded secret, but we really want to get the information out.
That's great.
So thank you so much for helping us with that. And then for our viewers, we can actually go online and we can participate in the novena and the masses. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. During the Solemn Novena, from March 10th until the 18th, 7 p.m., we'll have Mass here. So if you're people unable to join us in person, they can go on our website that I believe you'll be sending the link to, and we'll have the link for the YouTube video, the live stream, so people can participate that way and watch those Masses. And of course, on the feast day on the 19th, the 10 a.m. Mass as well. People can also see on the website, they can leave prayer intentions, they can put in candle requests. Some of the little history of the shrine too is written up there if people want to learn a little bit more. And we'll also, our visiting schedule, the hours and the address and everything, all the information there for people who would love to have them come visit as well. We have, if they're looking to stay on a pilgrimage, we have, of course, St. Norbert Abbey that is down the road that serves and ministers for the shrine. And we also have guest rooms there available, so people want to come on an individual pilgrimage, or sometimes we offer group pilgrimages themed on St. Joseph as well, here between the Abbey and the shrine. So people are welcome to take advantage of all those opportunities. So those are all on the website as well, so people can take a look at all those opportunities.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great being with you. Thank you for visiting.
Thank you.